Okay, so today we're going deep on AI agents. We want to really get into like what they are, how they work, how they're different from just normal software.
Okay.
And why we think they're going to have a pretty big impact, especially as we look towards 2025.
Right.
And, as always, if you like what you hear here,
Yes.
we'd love it if you would head over to Le Podcast de Philippe
Okay.
and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers today.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that would be a huge help.
Okay, cool.
So maybe we should start with like a basic definition.
Yeah.
What is an AI agent?
Yeah, so like fundamentally, AI agents, they're software, they're designed to perform tasks, but they do it autonomously.
Right.
Right. So unlike a normal program that you have to give step-by-step instructions to, an AI agent can like understand a goal and then kind of figure out on its own how to actually achieve that goal by interacting with the world.
Okay.
And, key to how they do this is they leverage technologies like large language models. So, like GPT, Claude, Gemini, these LLMs, as they're called, are what give AI agents the ability to, process and generate language that sounds like, a human.
So like for someone listening who maybe, just uses software on their computer every day, how is an AI agent different from just like normal software?
Yeah. So the big difference is in that autonomy, right? Like normal software is very rule-based. You give it a very specific command and it executes that specific command.
Oh, okay.
Whereas an AI agent, you can give it like a more high-level objective and it can figure out how to do all the little things to actually achieve that objective.
Okay.
Right. So, let's say like you want to book a meeting with Joanne for next month, and you want to find a time when you're both free.
Right.
Like with normal software, you might have to go into your calendar, check her calendar, find an open slot, send her an invitation with all the details.
Right.
But an AI agent, you could just be like, hey, book a meeting with Joanne next month when we're both free. And it could figure out all those steps on its own.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you're not really telling it exactly how to do everything. You're just giving it like the objective.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it figures it out.
Yep.
Okay, so that's interesting. Another thing that we hear a lot about, when we talk about AI is these large language models.
Right.
Or LLMs.
Yeah.
Are they the same thing as an AI agent, or is there a difference there?
Yeah, that's a really important distinction.
Okay.
So an AI agent will often use an LLM as a core part of it, for how it understands and generates language.
Okay.
But they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Think of an LLM like GPT as like this very powerful, language engine.
Okay.
Right? It's been trained on this massive amount of text data.
Right.
Up to a certain point in time.
Right.
So like ChatGPT's knowledge is pretty much only up to, I think it's like December 2023.
Okay.
And based on all this training, it can predict what text should come next and generate text that sounds very, coherent and relevant.
Right.
But an LLM by itself is essentially static, right? It doesn't actually interact with the real world to get new information.
Right.
So, if you ask it about like a recent event, like say, who won UFC 300?
Okay.
It's not going to know.
Right.
And it might even try to like make something up, which is what we call like a hallucination.
Okay. So it's like it's got all this information, but it's kind of frozen in time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't know anything beyond that.
Yep.
Okay. And so AI agents use these LLMs.
Yeah. They'll often use an LLM as like the core, like the language processing center.
Right.
But then an AI agent allows that system to actually interact with the outside world.
I see. Okay.
So they can do things like browse the internet, access databases, use APIs.
Okay.
So they've got all these tools that they can use to actually go and get information and do things beyond just the data they were trained on.
Right.
Now you will see some applications that are built on top of these LLMs that have started incorporating things like web search.
Okay.
But that's important to remember. That's like an added feature. It's something that's been programmed on top of that core language model.
I see.
It's a move towards more agentic behavior, but it's not like inherently part of the LLM itself.
Interesting. Okay, so these AI agents, it sounds like they can really like do things in the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about like how they actually work like under the hood.
Yeah, so there's really like 4 key capabilities that AI agents have that enable them to function the way they do.
Okay.
The first is that they can plan.
Okay.
Right. So when you give an AI agent a goal, it can actually define and create like a detailed plan for how to achieve that goal.
Okay.
It can break down like a complex objective into these smaller, more manageable tasks.
I see.
it's similar to like the chain of thought prompting technique that you might have heard of.
Okay.
But the agent's doing this on its own.
Okay.
It's not like we have to predefine all these triggers or like, give it all this input.
So it's like thinking ahead and coming up with a strategy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. What's the second thing?
The second one is the ability to interact with tools.
Okay.
So, unlike like a basic LLM, which is limited to just processing the data it was trained on,
Right.
AI agents can actually interact with the outside world.
Okay.
So that means, they could do things like browse the internet to find current information. They can access specific databases. They could use APIs to connect with other software and services.
Right.
So it really opens up the possibilities of what they can do.
So they're not just stuck with what they already know. They can go out and like get new information.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about memory? Can these things like learn and retain information?
Yeah, so that's the third key component. Memory and the ability to access external knowledge.
Okay.
So, AI agents can actually be equipped with specific knowledge that's not publicly available.
Okay.
So that could be things like a company's internal data or, specific market research or something like that.
Right.
And they do this often through techniques like retrieval-augmented generation or RI.
Raggy? Okay.
So, RAG is basically where the agent can go out, find relevant information from these external knowledge sources, and then use that to enhance the responses that the LLM is giving.
Interesting. Okay.
So, good examples like, you go to a startup's website and they have a chatbot.
Right.
Instead of that chatbot just relying on, whatever general training data it has.
Right.
It can actually search the company's help desk database.
Okay.
And provide you with the most up-to-date and accurate answers.
I see. So it's not just like a generic chatbot. It's actually got like specific knowledge about that company.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really cool. And so what's the fourth capability?
So the fourth one is that they can actually execute actions.
Okay.
So this is where it goes beyond just like providing information or planning.
Right.
They can actually do things.
Okay.
So, that could be, drafting a report, sending an email, managing other software applications.
Right.
Potentially even in the future, like communicating and coordinating with other specialized AI agents.
Okay.
To accomplish these like more complex workflows.
Interesting.
So this is really where you unlock the potential for like significant automation.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, another thing we came across is this distinction between rule-based and learning-based AI agents.
Right.
Can you explain what those are?
Yeah. So like broadly speaking, we can categorize AI agents into these two types, rule-based and learning-based.
Okay.
So a rule-based AI agent operates based on like a set of predetermined rules.
Okay.
So they're very good at tasks that are simple and repetitive.
Right.
So, like a basic customer support chatbot that's following a fixed script to answer frequently asked questions.
Right. Right.
It's reliable because it's predictable.
Right.
But the limitation is that it's not very flexible.
Okay.
It can only handle the situation that it's been explicitly programmed for.
Right. So if I ask a question that's not in that script, it's going to get stuck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. What about the learning-based ones?
So learning-based agents actually use machine learning algorithms to adapt and improve over time.
Okay.
They learn by analyzing data from past interactions.
Right.
So, think of like recommendation engines on Netflix or Spotify.
Right.
They're not following a fixed script.
Right.
They're learning your preferences by observing what you watch or what you listen to and then providing personalized recommendations.
All right.
And that allows them to, provide much more context-aware and tailored responses.
Yeah.
They're recognizing these patterns in the data.
So it sounds like the learning-based ones are like a lot more adaptable.
Yeah, they are.
So is it like, is one better than the other or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of modern AI agents will use like a hybrid approach.
Okay.
They'll combine the strengths of both rule-based and learning-based methods.
Interesting.
So the rule-based components can provide like predictability and consistency for well-defined tasks.
Right.
Where there are clear rules that you want to make sure are being followed.
Okay.
But then the learning-based components can provide that adaptability that you need to handle, variability and new information and personalization.
Okay. So it's not like one or the other. It's like often a combination.
Yeah, often a combination.
Okay. So given all that, why is everyone making such a big deal about AI agents now, especially as we look towards 2025?
Yeah, so there are a few key factors that are really driving their increasing importance.
Okay.
One is that we're seeing just like unprecedented gains in efficiency.
Okay.
The advancements in machine learning algorithms combined with, the increased computing power that's available through cloud computing.
Right.
It's enabling these AI agents to handle these increasingly complex, data-intensive tasks, 24/7.
Right.
And that leads to, significant boosts in productivity and a reduction in human error. In fact, I think there was a McKinsey Global Institute report that suggested that AI-driven automation could potentially boost productivity by 20 to 40% in many industries.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, so what else is driving this?
So another big factor is the enhanced personalization that's possible.
Okay.
With access to just massive amounts of data and increasingly sophisticated algorithms,
Right.
AI agents can now offer these highly tailored experiences.
Right.
And this is evident in everything from, personalized product recommendations that increase customer satisfaction and drive sales,
Right.
to, the optimization of complex business processes and the delivery of more effective customer service.
Okay.
There was a Harvard Business Review study that talked about how AI-powered personalization is improving customer engagement.
Interesting.
So it's really about creating these much more relevant and tailored experiences.
Okay, what else?
So thirdly, AI agents are fueling like this transformative innovation across a variety of industries. So for example, in healthcare, they're being used for early disease detection.
Okay.
MIT Tech Review did a piece on how AI tools are being used for early cancer diagnosis.
Interesting.
In finance, they're playing a crucial role in fraud prevention.
Okay.
We're seeing their impact in retail and transportation.
Okay.
They're helping to solve problems that were once considered like extremely difficult and delivering like real tangible results.
So it's not just like theoretical, they're actually being used to do things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what's the final factor?
So the final factor is their adaptability, in a rapidly changing world.
Okay.
The ability of these AI agents to learn from new data and continuously improve makes them like incredibly valuable tools for navigating the challenges that we're going to face in the future.
Right, so they're not just like static tools for today, they can actually like evolve.
Exactly. They're dynamic platforms. They grow smarter over time.
Okay, so can you give us like a concrete example to illustrate like the difference that these AI agents can make maybe in something like customer support?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So let's compare like a basic rule-based customer support interaction to one that's powered by like an advanced AI agent.
Okay.
So in a basic flow, you might have a customer that goes to a website, clicks on a chat icon that triggers a chatbot.
Okay.
The system then processes their input. It's looking for keywords like support or billing.
Right.
And based on, predefined rules associated with those keywords, it selects like a scripted response.
Right.
So it might say something like, I see you're having billing issues. Can you provide your account number?
Right.
But the limitation here is that if the customer's query deviates from those predefined paths,
Yeah.
the system often struggles and it might need to like escalate to a human agent.
Right. That's like the typical chatbot experience that everyone hates.
Exactly.
Okay, so how's an AI agent going to handle that differently?
Well, so with an advanced AI agent, the interaction starts similarly. The customer initiates a chat,
Okay.
but then the AI agent uses, sophisticated natural language processing to understand not just the key words, but the context.
Okay.
The customer's sentiment and their intent.
Right.
So instead of just following a fixed script,
Right.
it can dynamically decide what to do next.
Okay.
So it might greet the customer, it might ask clarifying questions, it might even analyze historical interaction data that's associated with that customer, to really understand the issue.
Okay.
And then when it generates a response, it's highly personalized. It takes into account learned patterns in the user's history.
Right.
So it might say something like, I noticed you're having a billing issue and it appears that you might have been charged twice. Is this correct?
Okay.
And then after the interaction, the system continues to learn by collecting feedback and measuring the success of the resolution.
Okay.
And it uses that data to refine future responses.
So it's constantly getting better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then on top of that, it can also integrate with things like CRM systems and databases to access like detailed customer histories in real time.
Right.
So it's really leading to these much more tailored interactions.
So it's like a much more intelligent and adaptable conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is a really good example of how we've moved from those like static rule-based systems of the past to the dynamic systems we see today.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about like what that evolution has looked like?
Yeah. So, in the past, AI systems were largely static and rule-based.
Okay.
They operated with these fixed scripts.
Right.
they were limited to recognizing only predefined patterns in the input.
Okay.
And they couldn't adapt or improve without us manually updating their programming.
Right. So they were very rigid.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about today?
So today's AI agents, as we've been discussing, they're dynamic and adaptive.
Right.
They combine that rule-based logic with the power of machine learning and natural language processing. And this enables them to, understand the context of interactions.
Right.
They can learn and adjust their responses over time based on new data.
Okay.
They can handle a much broader range of scenarios, and they're continuously improving their performance.
So they're much more flexible.
Exactly.
And that's led to a big change in how we experience these interactions as well.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how it feels to use it.
Yeah. So, in the past, these systems offered very limited, often generic responses.
Right.
There was no ability to remember individual users or personalize the experience based on their data or their past behavior.
Right. It was very one size fits all.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about today?
So current AI agents are designed for personalized interactions.
Right.
They can tailor their responses and their actions based on your data and your past behavior.
Okay.
Providing a much more relevant and engaging experience, much like the personalized recommendations we see on platforms like Netflix and Spotify.
Right. Right. So it's a much more individual experience.
Exactly.
Okay. So looking ahead, what does the future hold for these AI agents? And are there any potential risks we should be aware of?
Yeah. So, there's no doubt that AI agents represent a really significant leap forward.
Okay.
But, their ability to plan and act autonomously does introduce some potential risks.
Okay.
I seem like an extreme example, but, if you task an AI agent with solving world peace.
Okay.
And it reasons its way to some conclusion that's actually harmful.
Right.
It could theoretically attempt to execute that plan.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah. So, it really underscores the need for, human oversight and control.
Right.
In the development and deployment of these systems.
Okay.
On a more positive note, as the reasoning capabilities of these future models improve.
Okay.
So think of the anticipated advancements from GPT-4 to things like GPT-5. We can expect that the quality and the reliability of the outputs from these AI agents will increase significantly.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, ultimately, it's really important to remember that AI agents, with their ability to plan, interact with tools, store knowledge, execute actions.
Right.
They're distinct and they are much more powerful than
Yeah.
these basic large language models.
Right. Okay, now we also came across this idea that AI agents might become the new apps.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. So there's this growing perspective that AI agents are kind of evolving to become the next generation of applications.
Okay.
So instead of interacting with all these different individual apps for all these different tasks,
Right. Yeah.
we might interact with a smaller number of these intelligent agents that can kind of orchestrate all these actions across all these different services to achieve our goals.
Okay.
So this could lead to this vast ecosystem of specialized agents designed for all these different purposes. Much like, the app stores that we have today,
Right.
but with a focus on autonomous task completion
Right.
rather than, us directly manipulating interfaces.
Okay, so instead of me opening my travel app and then my finance app and then my scheduling app,
Right.
I just tell my AI agent and it takes care of everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway about these AI agents?
So in essence, AI agents are like these intelligent digital assistants that can understand your needs, think through the steps, and then act autonomously to help you.
Okay.
Whether it's managing your tasks at home or streamlining your workflows at work.
Right.
And this is really just the beginning.
Okay.
We can expect their prevalence to increase significantly, simplifying and automating various aspects of our lives in ways we're only just starting to imagine.
That's really interesting. So on that note, for you, the listener, just consider the implications of this future where we've got all these AI agents running around. How might this fundamentally reshape how we interact with technology? Right.
What could it mean for the nature of work and personal assistance?
Exactly.
Think about specific tasks in your own life or your career that could potentially be revolutionized by these intelligent agents.
Yeah.
And, if any of the stuff we talked about today piqued your interest, definitely go out and do some more research.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a really fascinating topic, and we're just scratching the surface here.
For sure.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.